Hello there, Romans here and welcome to another music review. I review every album from a viewpoint of a musician, as I am a singer, songwriter and a bass player for my own group Jakobe, and in April we have released our debut album called Pursuits in Life. What makes the album unique is that it's a pretty heavy prog rock without guitars. Instead you have drums, bass, saxophone and keyboards. You can check out two of my singles on my YouTube channel. We're building our own monument, but also a new live video for a song Away Till Pose. And in the description of the both videos you will find all the information about where's the record available. It's available on all digital platforms like Spotify, Tidal, Deezer, iTunes, Amazon. But it's available also in this digipack version of a CD with a very beautifully illustrated 20 pages long booklet. And it's the booklets that we buy the records for, right? And today I'm going to talk about the new album from Muse called Simulation Theory.
Music review. Music review.
I don't think Muse really need any introduction at this point. They're one of the most famous bands of like last 20 years. And let's not waste any time with background or whatever. Let's talk about their new studio album, which is their 8th studio album overall, called Simulation Theory, which as of now I've heard 9 times. The album opens up with the track Algorithm, which is quite simply one of the best tracks I've heard this year. Those keys at the beginning with a bit of a flanger on them, fantastic. This is a massive track. Then you've got those keyboard sounds that kind of remind me of Stranger Things. And this record, as you will kind of progress with listening, is very heavily influenced with 80s pop culture and 80s sounds. And this is something that is kind of present these days, like 80s have a sort of a renaissance. Like you had the already mentioned Stranger Things TV show, which was a big hit. Then, for example, Haken, one of the best progressive metal bands, had an 80s influenced record 2 years ago. Then, I don't know, The Midnight, a great project. Yeah, I really love the 80s. That's personally my favorite decade. So seeing Muse going 80s, that's sort of like a dream come true. So this is really phenomenal track. I like that it's retro, but at the same time it's very up-to-date sounding, and in a way a typical Muse song, especially in terms of the chorus. The second track, The Dark Side, has that sort of a Depeche Mode vibe. It kind of brings Upbringing to mind from the Resistance album, and it's again a very typical Muse song in the style of this record. The song Pressure is one of the more rock songs on the album. I really like that guitar riff with fuzz and with that horn section behind, and especially that bridge, The Pressure's Building, reminds me a lot of the song Over and Over and Over from Jack White. He released his latest solo record Boarding House Reach earlier this year, and he kind of uses the same sounds for guitar as this song has. And then you've got a very uplifting 80s-like chorus, especially with those backing vocals. Propaganda is a song that has a very cool beginning because you've got those heavy electronic sounds that should kind of emulate the word propaganda. I think it sounds pretty interesting. This is more like an electronic pop song, and I really like the contrast that the guitar solo brings, because the whole track is based on keys and heavy electronics, and then you have guitar solo played with a slide on an acoustic guitar. I think that's a pretty unconventional thing to do. Break It To Me is like this kind of an electronic pop song with a bit of an Eastern influence, which I really like a lot. And even though the chorus is a little catchier as opposed to more serious verses, I really like that ending word Reborn, which again has that very oriental vibe, and I like those vocal effects that he has on his voice. It really sounds great. Something Human is a song that has almost like a chilling summer vibe. I like the contrast of heavy keys and acoustic guitar. One of the first songs that were written for this record, and it's really a song that is much brighter and much more uplifting than maybe most of the stuff we got from Muse in the last couple of years. Thought Contagion is a more mainstream and contemporary sounding. It kind of brings bands like Imagine Dragons or 30 Seconds to Mars to mind, especially with those awes that we hear. The guitar solo, especially sonically, because melodically it just kind of repeats the melody of the chorus. Get Up and Fight is another track where I really love the beginning, especially those female vocals along with the music set a very interesting mood. I really like. Then the chorus is slightly more rock and uplifting. Blockades, that's again kind of electronic rock a la Muse. Then Dig Down, The beginning reminds me a lot of the song Madness from The Second Law, and Madness is one of the best songs ever. I love that track, and I really dig, no pun intended, gospel vocals in the chorus. There's even a gospel version of this track on the deluxe version, and when I heard that version I really realized that this song is in its essence and in its core a gospel track. The album closes with the track The Void, which is a slower electronic track with some orchestral arrangements. It's one of the best tracks on the record. I again love that envelope filler on keyboards that kind of brings Stranger Things to mind again, and then it kind of shifts into a more kind of like disco-like part. This is a great track, I really love it. I really love this record. I went into this record honestly with no expectations, but I think it's a phenomenal record. It's one of the best records I've heard this year, and the fact that I love about Muse is that they are one of those bands that kind of always push the envelope and they try to redefine their sound and they try to evolve. This is something that's relatively polarizing to Muse fans. There are people who are on board with all of their changes, but then there are of course people who always scream for their old sound. I personally belong to the first group. I think that there's no point in doing the same thing over and over again, and even though I, for example, respect AC/DC, I really don't like the idea of repetition. It's like, you know, you hear 2 albums from AC/DC and you have pretty much heard all of their records, and I really appreciate bands that try to evolve and do something different. And this album feels a lot like their Second Law record, but with the 80s sound and 80s nostalgia all over it. If you are a Muse fan, you can let me know in the comment section below whether you agreed with my review or not. You can also write down how well do you think the new album compares to their previous stuff. You can follow me on Facebook or on Instagram. You can find the links to both in the description of this video below. If you like this review, don't forget to like, to share and to subscribe. You can check out my own original music, my live performances, my worst to best series, and of course a lot of other reviews that I've made. Thanks a lot for watching.